What up? It's your boy T-Bird from Reaction. Today is Wrestling Wednesday. About to get into some wrestling reactions. So, yesterday, I finally got a chance to watch the infamous movie Iron Claw about the infamous, sadly cursed Von Erich family, as well too one of the top best families in wrestling. Sadly, I called them the Kennedy of wrestling because what they went through is so sad. So, finally chance to watch the video because it's on HBO Max. And the movie was great, and definitely has some sad moments, man. To the point that almost brought me to tears a little bit. So I wanted to finally get on this video. I had my back for a minute about from Watch Mojo called the top 10 things that Iron Claw gets factually right and wrong. You know, with any biopics, they're gonna have some stuff that are fabricated just for the sake of dramatization, or one of the put certain things in there. One of them already I know is that they did have another brother, Chris. I don't know why I did that. Chris Von Erich, that sadly passed as well too, and sadly by suicide. But he was like kind of if you could say on the way the runt of the family, because he was like smaller than the rest. He had a brittle bone and he had asthma. And sadly, his sex wrestling career didn't go as great as them, and I guess he felt depressed over that. And but because I watched the movie and I thought Michael had it bad with what he's going through. I can imagine what Chris was going through as well too. That's probably why they didn't add it to the movie, because it was already pressing enough, and adding Chris' situation would probably be even more depressing as well too. So anyway, we're gonna check out the facts and fictions of the top 10 thing. I think Iron Claw got factually right and wrong in the movie. Let's get it from Watch Mojo. And I gotta say, Zac Efron killed this role as well as Jeremy Allen White. The guy who did who was David did pretty good as well too. All of them did pretty good, but definitely Jack and Jeremy really killed their roles. But anyway, let's get it.
He said if we were the toughest, the strongest, nothing could ever hurt us. I believed him.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the historical accuracy and creative liberties taken in this Von Erich family biopic.
We're here to restore justice to the Wrestling Federation that our father built with his own two hands.
For those who don't know the
and
story,
the guy who played the father looked just like what Frisch looked like too. Like they did casting with that.
Number 10, the Von Erich curse. Right. While it's debatable if curses exist, there's no denying that the Von Erich family was consumed with tragedy.
People said my family was cursed. Mom tried to protect us with God. Pop tried to protect us with wrestling.
Some assume that the so-called curse started with the death of Fritz and Doris's firstborn son, Jack Barton Jr. As the film touches upon, misfortune plagued the Von Erich name well before Fritz became a father.
Tragedy, something they faced in the past, stepped back into the ring.
The patriarch of the family, Fritz Von Erich, lost an infant son.
Von Erich was Fritz's grandmother's maiden name. Growing up, Fritz heard stories about how his grandma would lose things and hurt herself. His grandfather often said that his grandma was cursed, which Fritz interpreted as a joke. After losing Jack, Fritz began to wonder if there truly was a family curse.
It's been kind of like a nightmare, And they don't, it doesn't get easier.
Fritz's concern
again, the guy that played the dad, he looks just like him.
Intensified when he learned that much of his grandma's family died from a virus outbreak and starvation. Number 9, the Von Erich name's full backstory. Wrong. In need of a catchy stage name, Jack Barton Adkisson started going by Fritz Von Erich. Although Von Erich was a family name on his grandmother's side, the film overlooks one of its more controversial aspects. Being a distinctly German name, Fritz Von Erich modeled his in-ring persona after a Nazi.
He created the evil character of Nazi sympathizer Fritz Von Erich.
What you one knows, majority of the Von Erich guys are baby faces as well too. Most of their wrestling career, Fritz, their dad, was a heel. I heard.
Known as the Master of the Iron Claw, Fritz took great joy in pummeling his opponents and taunting the ringside fans.
Fritz knew that if he got people to hate him, it'd be a surefire way to succeed in professional wrestling. He eventually dropped the Nazi villain persona, forming a more heroic identity in the ring.
By the late 70s, Fritz, having dropped the Nazi persona, took the true persona of family man, a proud Texas father of 5 boys.
However, Fritz kept the Von Erich name, which he passed on to his sons. While the Von Erich name was already supposedly cursed, superstitious wrestling fans couldn't help but wonder if Fritz's Nazi gimmick brought his family bad karma.
Wow.
Number 8, The Von Erich family lived in a trailer. Right. When we first meet the Von Erich family, Fritz, Doris, and their 2 young boys have their entire lives packed up in a trailer. As seen in the film, Fritz surprised Doris by purchasing a new Cadillac, despite not being on steady financial ground.
I was in demand all over the world. In fact, I was probably the biggest wrestling card in the world at the time.
Fritz would drive around the U.S. and Canada, participating in wrestling matches while his...
I'm watching Fritz, and right now is the guy. Let me see who the guy that played him did a great job. Like voice wise, almost voice. Well, I don't think his voice was that as deep, but definitely was Let me see the guy that played. What's his name? Holt McCallany. I feel like I see him on other stuff though, but he did a great portrayal as Fritz. He really did. He's agreed. He kind of called Glisteman. He was asleep most of the time before he got Glisteman too. I ain't gonna lie, I did held him tight during the rest of the movie though, because it was like. Let me see. Let me get his tablet go for him real quick. Hold on. Let me get your tablet for you real quick. He said, what's going on? Alright, here we go. There you go. There you go. Anyway, let's keep going. But yeah, he did a good He did a good job. I see he's from Fight Club. Maybe that's probably where I know him from. But anyway, let's get it.
Family remained at various trailer parks. Staying in Niagara Falls, New York, Jack Jr. tragically drowned in a puddle of melted snow after being electrocuted by a trailer tongue.
Just lost one of my children in Niagara Falls, New York. Electrocuted. And I'd blame myself being on the road for his death.
Wow. Several years later, the Von Erichs decided to make Texas their permanent residence. With Fritz's career finally taking off, they sold the mobile home and bought a house where they hoped to move on from the past.
Never got out of Dallas. I came through Dallas to see my folks, and things began to happen here.
Number 7. Fritz Von Erich ranked his sons.
Yeah.
Right. Most parents will likely tell you that they love their children equally. Fritz Von Erich wasn't like most parents, however. In the Iron Claw, the family sits around the breakfast table where Fritz ranks his children.
Now, we all know Carrie's my favorite, then Kev, then David, then Mike. But the rankings can always change.
Mike comes in last, but as Fritz reminds him, the ranking isn't set in stone. According to the real Kevin Von Erich, his father wasn't above playing favorites. Jack Jr. was excluded from the ranking as he had died years ago.
We all knew Carrie was Dad's favorite, but it was because my brother Jackie died, and then
he sounds just like his dad.
Carrie was the baby at the time.
Fritz showed favoritism to Carrie, with Kevin happy to be in second. The Von Erich patriarch was harder on David, although at one point he showed the most promise in the ring.
Dad was pretty rough on Dave. I can remember a few times, and the reason was Dave. I'm sure we had everything that we got. I'm sure we had it coming, but Dave reminded Dad of himself.
Mike, meanwhile, was less likely to become a champion and therefore fell short in Dad's ranking. Number 6, the timing of Carrie Von Erich's accident. Wrong. In the wake of David's death, either Kevin or Carrie would take his place in the heavyweight championship match against Ric Flair.
Carrie Von Erich is the new world heavyweight champion. No doubt about it.
It was just one of those great days. It was a great show. Everybody worked hard.
As the movie depicts, Carrie won the coin toss, going on to take the belt from Flair. Almost immediately after this victory, Carrie's involved in a motorcycle accident that claims his right foot.
There was a lot of uncertainty as to what his future would be in the ring after that, because it was such a severe injury and he was out for a long time.
Although an accident did transpire, the film condenses the time frame. Carrie's fateful crash took place on June 4th, 1986, almost 2 years after he fought Flair.
2 years.
The Iron Claw also excludes a key detail following Carrie's career highlight. Only 18 days after Carrie claimed the belt, Flair won it back in Japan.
3 weeks after the Parade of Champions, Ric Flair regained the World Championship from Carrie Von Erich.
Carrie's time as the NWA World Champ would be among the shortest reigns in the title's history. Number 5, David Von Erich's death in Japan. Right. 25 years after Jack Jr.
I know for sure was for real. I always heard that. I think I heard a story about that. I heard that story all the time, man, and that was so sad.
David became the second Von Erich boy to prematurely leave this earth. Gearing up for a major match against Ric Flair, David's body was found in his hotel room in Tokyo, Japan.
February 3rd taping aired in its entirety, with viewers around the world unaware that the 25-year-old star they were watching died of an apparent stomach ailment just days earlier.
According to the Von Erich family, David's death was caused by an inflammation of the intestines. The Iron Claw gives this explanation as well, although it leaves out some of the conspiracy theories surrounding David's demise.
Rumors out there, I mean, there was rumors flying everywhere.
At the time, rumors started circulating that David died from a drug overdose. Ric Flair would feed into this theory, claiming that fellow wrestler Bruiser Brody got rid of the evidence to protect his family's legacy. Based on the evidence, though, all signs point to ruptured intestines, as the Von Erichs claim.
Autopsies don't lie. David Von Erich died from acute enteritis.
It's crazy that he was only 25 too. Like, it was so sad he died so young though. You didn't think about it till you were watching the movie. Like, he was so young when he died.
His intestines swelled, they ruptured, and he died of heart failure.
Number 4, Mike Von Erich's spiral after surgery. Right.
Wow.
Although he was more interested in music, Mike Von Erich attempted to join the family.
He did have the little press conferences afterwards, like in the movie.
Business. A wrestling tour in Israel marked the beginning of the end for Mike, who suffered a shoulder injury.
You all know that my shoulder's been going out and been getting hurt a lot since whenever I first started wrestling, you know.
He got his shoulder jerked out of joint in Tel Aviv.
Returning to Texas, Mike went in for a routine shoulder surgery. Things took an unexpected turn when Mike ran up a temperature no less than 105 degrees Fahrenheit, developing toxic shock syndrome. Overcoming the odds, Mike survived the ordeal, but he was never the same physically or mentally.
And I know our prayer was answered because Mike lived, but he wasn't the same.
About a year after his surgery, he mixed alcohol and sleeping pills. Driving to an outdoor area, Mike zipped himself in a sleeping bag and was never seen alive again. Mike left multiple letters behind for his family, including one saying he'd be watching.
Inside the car, investigators found an unsigned, handwritten note. It said, "Mom and Dad, I'm in a better place. I'll be watching."
Number 3, Kevin Von Erich found Carrie's body. Wrong. The film builds to a heartbreaking scene where Kevin
I thought that was... Now, I did kind of thought something was up with that. I kind of thought that wasn't a story. I didn't think that was a story at all, that Kevin found him. Nah, I figured that, because I always heard a story about how Carrie died, but never knew that was the case.
Arrives at the family ranch, concerned for his only living brother.
We knew how Kerry felt, how like he's like, I'm okay, but when he's alone, he was suffering.
Hearing a gunshot, Kevin finds Carrie's body by a tree. Taking his anger out on his father, Kevin carries his brother's body inside and places it on the table. It's true that Carrie took his own life near the family ranch after years of medical issues and run-ins with the law.
He could have got out of that, he could have got straightened up. If he'd come back in 2 years bigger and better than ever, probably all would have been forgotten. But he couldn't see it at that time. I think he's a young guy and thought, man, I've screwed it up for good.
However, Kevin wasn't the one who discovered his body. Rather, it was Fritz who found his son. Shortly before his death, Carrie gave Fritz a hug, telling his father that he loved him.
It was just bad timing. Fritz was pouring a sidewalk, pouring concrete. Kevin called to tell him. He said, I got to call you back. And between the time he called him back and that phone call, Carrie showed up, and the tragedy happened.
Since his accident, Carrie had exposed a desire to be reunited with his brothers, which the film portrays. Number 2, Kevin Von Erich gave Ric Flair the Iron Claw. Right. Grieving the loss of David and Mike, Kevin takes his rage out on Ric Flair during a match. Kevin delivers his family's signature Iron Claw move, but he loses control.
And Flair is down in the midst of the powerful Von Erich Iron Claw. Here's David Manning to try to get Kevin off. The bout is over.
As others tell him to stop, Kevin continues to press down upon his rival's head. Kevin is eventually pried away, getting disqualified. This sequence remains most faithful to what transpired between Kevin and Flair at the second Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions. Fritz intervened in the fight, convinced that Kevin would kill Flair if he continued.
Fritz finally the only one to pull Kevin off.
The match concluded in a double countout with Kevin failing to take the title.
But it is obvious that both men were counted out, and Flair retains the championship belt.
The one major difference is that this happened in 1985, which was a year after David's death, but 2 years before Mike's. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, there were 5 Von Erich brothers. Wrong. Kevin wasn't the one who found Carrie dead, but he did stumble upon another brother's body. Along with his mother, Kevin discovered his brother Chris with a self-inflicted gunshot wound outside of the family property.
I said, Chris, what did you do? I thought he might took some tools.
The 6th and youngest brother, Chris Von Erich, is absent from the Iron Claw. The filmmakers decided to exclude Chris simply because of the runtime. In terms of pacing, Chris's absence makes sense, seeing how his death was eerily similar to Carrie's. Chris was also the least involved in wrestling, struggling with health problems throughout his youth.
And when he finally was able to work out and He was never going to be as big as his brothers as far as size. But for him, he was very muscled up, very muscular. Then he breaks his arm, and that's a big setback.
While Chris became a professional wrestler in 1990, he'd take his life the next year. Kerry followed 2 years later, leaving Kevin as the only remaining Von Erich brother.
I think Chris was under such high pressure. He took asthma medicine when he was young, and it basically stunted his growth.
What did you think of the Iron Claw? Share your thoughts in the comments.
Your job is to wrestle. Live up to that deal, or we are through.
Did you enjoy this?
Yeah, our guy was he was he was portrayed as a fan man, as a good guy, but behind the scenes, I feel like he might have been like, you know, cause of why it is like that, because too much pressure and everything. At least with David, possibly with Kerry and Mike as well too, and of course and Chris with the suicide situation. But yeah, it was a good movie. Definitely was a good movie. I will say that I would recommend folks to watch it as well too. I mean, regardless if there's some stuff fabricated or not true, or that happened, it's still a great watch though for sure. Other than that, if you like more reaction, like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's your boy T-Bird signing off. One love.